What's been a little surprising, and I think why there's so much conversation, at least from what I'm seeing, about Kelsey Plum is that during the season when the rest of the core aces, the other, they're the core four, Asia, Chelsea, Jackie Young, and Kelsey Plum. So when her other three, counterparts, they...
Remember when the Las Vegas Aces dominated the WNBA with unmatched strength? Those days of triumph now seem like a distant memory. The once dominant team is showing signs of breaking apart, and it all begins with a major twist. Kelsey Plum, the sharp shooter who has been the cornerstone of their offense, is on the verge of leaving.
Based on multiple conversations that I've had, it does seem like the most likely scenario is that Kelsey Plum would move on from the...
But it doesn't stop there. A'ja Wilson, the player who proudly claimed the title of the Aces' face and their outspoken leader, is now finding herself humbled as tensions rise. Coach Becky Hammond's control is slipping, and the locker room has become a pressure cooker. The entire league is watching as everything falls apart. This is drama you definitely don't want to miss. Are you ready? Let's dive in.
Mentioned that she did not sign an extension, and former general manager Natalie Williams told me before she and the Aces parted ways that, Kelsey was offered an extension and...
Let's face it, losing a game is tough, but losing a star teammate is even harder. Kelsey Plum's stats speak for themselves: minus 17.8 points and 4.2 assists last season with solid shooting percentages. She's the kind of player any coach would want, but the situation in Vegas is far from perfect.
So somebody like Kelsey Plum, she's coming off a difficult personal year, and she's emphasized that she wants to take time for herself, which is why she said that she pulled out of Unrivaled. So we're not necessarily in the position to, with respect to what she said, to ask her directly, and that would be the best indicator here. But of course, you mentioned my reporting, I can pull and cite a few quotes that kind of imply that, the same way that Satu said that she's working with the Dallas organization, that's been the implication, that the Aces are working to find a situation where, quote unquote, everybody's happy, which is exactly what Becky Hammond said to me about a month ago in regards to Kelsey Plum.
Here's the reality. Plum and coach Becky Hammond have been clashing for some time. That intense sideline argument during the playoffs, it wasn't just about one bad possession. It was the start of something bigger. Coach Hammond didn't hold back, criticizing Plum's performance and calling out the team's overall lack of effort. As for Plum, her body language said it all. She was done.
Also, I think she made the statement, something along the lines like, it's just not, we're not going to look the same that we've looked in the past, right? Which makes total sense, right? Again, as I just said, you kind of in your mind have this idea that teams are always going to look the way they look, and the reality is...
Then came the game against the New York Liberty. The Aces needed Plum, but she only scored 6 points, shooting 2 for 10. It wasn't just a bad game, it felt personal. Was it a lack of effort, a statement, or early signs of a rift? Either way, Plum's departure seems close, and A'ja Wilson is left to deal with the fallout. The cracks in the dynasty are becoming more apparent.
Is that there is a team that will be coming to the league this year, the Golden State Valkyries, and a part of me just kind of feels like that might be a fresh start for Kelsey Plum if she does decide that she wants to move on.
Now, let's talk about where Plum might land. The Golden State Valkyries are eyeing her, with $1.2 million in cap space. They're not just after any player. They want a star, and Plum is a perfect fit.
From the Aces, to me, it gives them an opportunity to have a great perimeter scorer, which we know that Kelsey Plum is, but it also will add a little bit of familiarity for her because the new head coach was the former assistant coach in Las Vegas, and I think that that could also be something that plays well where you're getting a new environment and you're getting a new experience, but you're also still working with someone who knows you and knows you well, so you get...
But it gets messier. Guess who's coaching the Valkyries? Natalie Nakas, former Aces assistant. Nakas and Plum have a long history, and it could make Plum's decision easier. Imagine her walking into Golden State's locker room like it's home. Awkward for the Aces.
We're really close. I remember the first conversation I had with Natalie Nakaze, she was telling me that she spent the whole offseason doing Pilates with Kelsey Plum because Kelsey had roped her into it. And they were waking up at 6 a.m. together to go to these Pilates sessions. And I remember telling Natalie, that is something I would never do. I could never, wake up early. And she's like, well, you should. You should consider it. Kelsey has, changed.
And before you ask, won't the Aces fight to keep her? Here's the twist. Plum didn't sign an extension, and that silence says a lot. There's talk of a sign and trade, with teams like the Valkyries and Seattle Storm already interested. Plum's becoming the WNBA's top prize.
Definitely would not rule that out. Something that really stands out to me is that, Kelsey is a Southern California native, and San Francisco is, it's within the state. California is a large state, but it's still within the state. And I think that stands out. To me, that's like the most intriguing destination for Kelsey. I mean, I totally understand the fit. You mentioned like perimeter scoring for the Valkyries, and they'll absolutely need that. But I think also she brings like this, veteran championship mentality that Natalie Nakaze has emphasized that she wants to cultivate in the Golden State. And so to me, that would just be knock out of the park. And they have the room to do it. They're just building their roster. Cap space is not going to be a problem. So
for someone who talks a lot about loyalty and team first, the reality's different. Her frustrations are clear, and it's not just about losing Plum. Remember when Asia publicly questioned Plum's commitment during that tense playoff moment? It was a leadership fail, and Plum definitely didn't forget.
Actually, the context of the quote that Becky Hammon had given me, where she said, Kelsey is very core to this organization. She's very important. And so, we're giving her space to figure out what she needs for herself, but we also want to make sure that
If you thought it ended there, think again. Asia is lecturing the team. We need to be better. We can't rely on just a few players. It sounds good, but when your own leadership is under fire, it's a case of the pot calling the kettle black.
I have a very hard time imagining the Las Vegas Aces without that core four. They were all drafted there, right? I mean, they were all drafted there. And so, look, as a Warriors fan, losing Klay Thompson, I can sort of relate to this, but that would be quite a blow for a team like Vegas. They came up together. They won 2 championships.
Like, you say it's not really about me. And she knows how her privilege has gotten her to that point. And also, she's good at basketball, awesome. But, she understands her privilege. It's what pushes her over the top, in a sense. It reminds me a lot of you.
I understand that there could be personal reasons, but you're coming from a top-notch organization in Vegas. And Joe Lacob, as an owner for the Valkyries, he's setting them up nicely to begin. They're going to have the facilities. They're going to have all the things. But even if you just bring Kelsey Plum to the team that they have right now, as constructed, I don't think that would be enough.
I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to be the best. I get y'all saying best player in the world. That's great. It looks great. But I want to be the best person. I want to be the best teammate, because that's how I get the best out of my team.
Something else interesting to me is that the Aces seem like they have a lot of decisions to make, and they haven't replaced their GM. And I was reading, your reporting, and I saw all this we're making decisions by committee, which I found curious. How long is that going to go on?
That when I spoke to Becky last month, it was unclear. I requested to interview Natalie Williams recently, and the Aces declined. So obviously this is something that they don't want to talk about right now. But to me, it seems quite unlikely that they're going to even make a hire. And I know that it feels like they're trying to leave that up in the air. That's what Becky Hammon tried to, I think, imply. And when I've spoken to Nikki Fargas, team president,